Hello and welcome to Unacademy IAS, a one stop destination for all the English medium civil services aspirants. Here is a picture 23rd May 2027. The UPSC prelims exams are going to be conducted. Now, from the month of January 2027, you'll have to start revising. You have to revise polity, economics, geography, ecology and environment, science and technology, social issues, international relations. Are you afraid? Don't worry, because the picture is not yet over. In all of these particular subjects, you'll have to revise the static portion, which will be running into thousands of pages of notes, along with that, hundreds of pages of current affairs notes. A lot of the students find it very difficult to even revise all of these particular subjects once. But to clear the prelims examination as well as the mains examination, one area that everybody must work is to revise it as many times as possible. At least 3 to 4 times, every subject for that matter. So, how do you revise? Within a short time period, how is it possible to cover an entire subject? That is where the notes that you have made in the course of the preparation starting today will be a lifesaver. But a lot of the aspirants who are especially the beginners find it very difficult to make notes. They do not understand what to make in the form of notes. How do you take the information from a book, from newspaper, etc.? This is what I'll be discussing in today's video. Before I start, here is a very important announcement. The Unacademy IAS courses right now are available at the lowest ever prices of 16,999. This particular price is never going to come back, and I've been told that this offer is going to end today. Now, if you are somebody who is preparing for the 2027, if you take a subscription for a period of 6 months, in addition to this, 6 more months will be provided by Unacademy free of cost. If you opt for 9 months, you will not only get 9 more additional months free of cost, you also become eligible for additional 9 months under CSE Assure. The offer is also available if you are somebody who is preparing for 2028 or you are considering starting the preparation for 2028 and 2029. Those interested in enrolling, do check out the details by clicking on the link provided in the description below. And whatever is the price mentioned in the website, use the code IAS English to get the discounted price. Let me begin the discussion now. Should you make notes? I personally believe yes, it is a must for every UPSC aspirant to make notes. Let me give certain arguments to buttress, to basically support why you should be making notes. First, very important reason is when you make notes, and how you should be making notes, I'll explain that in some time. It will add to the analytical understanding of the topic that you have covered. For example, let's say you have attended a session just now. It could be a session in the subject of Indian economy where concepts such as gross domestic product has been discussed. Or you have attended a polity session where fundamental rights have been discussed. My suggestion is after the session is over, as soon as possible, take the standard book. Read the information that has been provided in the standard book. Now close the book. Please revise what you have done and summarize all these important points in the form of the notes. Listen to me very carefully. These particular notes are in no way a substitute for a standard book. Because in a standard book, everything is provided in detailed way. The discussion is much more elaborate. So this is not a substitute for a standard book. But let's say a particular subject is over. Now after, let's say 20 days, after 25 days, or after 30 days, you tend to forget everything that you have studied from that particular subject. How do you retain these concepts? The best way is that you need to keep on revising these particular subjects after a certain number of days. Now, there is no fixed time frame after how many days you should be revising the subject. It will vary from one student to another student. But my suggestion, do not keep on learning every subject one after the other without revising the subjects which have already been completed. Let's say you have studied polity, followed by this economics, followed by this geography, followed by international relations, followed by S and T. By the time you reach the science and technology, you are attending the classes, you are revising what has been taught on the same day, etc. But what have you studied under polity, economics, and geography? More than 90% of these particular concepts you will forget because you have stopped revising after the subject is completed. So, my suggestion, don't keep on shifting from one subject to another subject just like this. Keep on revising the subjects which are already complete. But now, the difficult part is, sir, how should I revise it? Polity, the book is 800 pages. Economics, the book is 1000 pages. How should I revise? I've already completed the book or important parts of this particular book. Should I go back to the book where I've underlined one line after another line? One line is underlined with pencil and another line is underlined with a marker. I've pasted post-it notes everywhere. I've written on the margins as well. Should I go back to the book? Now imagine you're basically revising in the month of March 2027 and you want to appear for the civil services prelims examination to be held in the month of May. Just think of it and be a rationalist, by the way. Is it possible for you to go through every page, line after line, search which line has been underlined? What is the importance of that line? What have you written in the margin? Keep on revising through the margin. It's not possible. So that is where the notes that you make will become very handy for you. So once you complete this particular subject, you should have made the notes. And let's say after 30 days, after 25 days, identify one day, sit with these particular notes and simply revise the subject which has been completed already. Now it depends how many hours you take. It depends on what is the length of the notes that you have made. Have you simply copied and pasted whatever is there in the book in the form of a note? It all depends on that. I'll come to how to make notes in some time. So first very important reason is you should be able to make better sense of what you have studied when you make the notes. Second very important reason is a lot of beginners forget one very important point. UPSC is not just preliminary examination. I know a lot of you are worried, lot of you are tensed, especially after the pattern of 2026, which was unfair. But I know a lot of you are worried. What if the pattern repeats? So I should focus more only on preparing for preliminary examination. That will be a mistake. Let's say you have prepared well, you have written the prelims 2027, you will clear. But because most of the time you have spent is only for preparing for prelims examination, now how is it possible that you will be able to prepare for mains examination within a very short period of time? So for preparing for mains examination as well, you need to focus on answer writing. That is one aspect of it. And second, when you have very short period of time, the notes that you have made will also become very, very handy. Right? So the second very important reason why you should be making notes is your understanding how to write an answer. For example, if you have read a page, that is page from, let's say, the newspaper articles, or let's say in the book, the page will have, let's say, 800 words, 900 words. Now you are able to compress these 800, 900 words into, let's say, 250 words or 500 words. So according to the requirement, according to the need of extracting the information, you have contracted the information into a short form. That is essential for you to write the answer in the mains examination as well. For example, there is a topic. You have, right, let's say 2000 words in your mind, but the examiner is asking you to write the answer in 150 words, in 250 words. If you don't know how to expand, how to contract these particular points it will be very difficult for you to write an answer according to the word limit that is given in the mains. This is the second reason why you should be making the notes. Third, as already mentioned, it will help in very quick revision. Very, very quick revision. And the fourth important reason why you should be making notes is because syllabus for UPSC is very, very vast. It is very vast. You will have to go through multiple books. And in some of the subjects, despite the faculty telling you, I know the tendency of the students or the aspirants is to refer to multiple books. So when the syllabus is so vast, especially for the mains, for prelims, there is no defined syllabus per se. In that particular situation, what will help you is basically the notes that you have done. So these are some of the reasons why you should be making the notes. Of course, in addition to this, there are other benefits. For example, it will improve handwriting. A lot of the aspirants have lot of knowledge, but the way they write. For example, do this exercise today. Take an A4 sheet, keep a timer, start writing. By the time you write, right, let's say 200 words or 250 words, you will see the kind of handwriting that you are able to, right, basically write in the mains. The handwriting or the pattern will be very erratic. You will start from one part of the page and you will go, or your line of the words will be very slanted like this. All of this will get reflected in the mains examination, which will harm the number of marks that you can score. So my suggestion is make the notes. This will also add to, right, basically the quality of the handwriting. Now the next question is how to make notes, right? Many of you will basically say, yes sir, agreed. How to make notes? I'll give you a very simple example. Please have a look at this particular one-page note that I've made on this particular chapter, that is financial market. The financial market from the subject of Indian economy. It is relevant for prelims as well as mains examination. Now, this particular one-page note that I've prepared, right, basically will provide you the most relevant information. I repeat, most relevant information from the financial market, targeting only the prelims concepts. Only the concepts relevant for preliminary examination. This is one example. Second example is, right, this is, right, basically the information, important points from the subject of inflation or topic of inflation. This is one more example. Let me show you one more example here. Right, this particular one page has basically important points from the chapter international trade, where I've written important points from the area of exchange rate, from the factors contributing to fluctuations in the exchange rate, real exchange rate, nominal exchange rate, balance of payments concept, etc. Don't worry, overnight it may not basically become workable for you. That is, you may not understand how to make notes overnight. And please remember, Rome was not built in a day. It is a process, not an event. So you will have to give it some time in order to understand how to extract information. You should have covered some important topics from this particular subject in order to understand how to extract the information, especially from the current affairs. That's the reason I'm saying it is very common in this particular process to get frustrated, become dejected, become fed up of the exercise of preparing for the UPSC examination. But please focus on the end goal. Everything should be towards achieving the end goal. So how do you make notes? These are some of the recommendations that I would want you people to inculcate. First very important factor is, please do not assume, I've told this already, I'm repeating it. Please do not assume that these notes is a replacement of a book. Absolutely no. Book has its own importance, but the problem is you can't always go back to the books if you want to revise the subject. That too in a short time period. That too in a span of, let's say, 3 months, you want to revise all the subjects multiple times. Books are not useful in that particular context. What will help you is the notes. This is the first important advice. Second very important advice is, whatever you read, please do not copy and paste it in the form of notes, and don't call it notes then. For example, if you are going to make notes on the subject of Indian economy, According to me, for prelims examination, the short notes, underline the term short notes. The short notes should not be more than 60 to 70 pages. This is according to me, not more than 60 to 70. I've seen the aspirants making 400 page notes, 800 page notes. Then essentially what you have done is you have written a book. You can call those as notes, but they cannot be short notes. You cannot expect 500 pages of each of the subject, let's say 8 subject, which will make the total number of pages 4000. You cannot expect to revise from these particular 4000 pages at the time of, let's say, last 1 week before the exams, or last 15 days before the exams, or last 1 month before the exams. At that particular point of time, it is the short notes that are going to help you. Now the question is, what should you be writing then? Simple. Please have the practice of writing, as I've mentioned already, my suggestion, writing in A4 pages, A4 sheets. Because I've told you this, lot of you become focused, too much focused on prelims, you start ignoring mains. In the mains examination, you're supposed to write in unruled sheets. So practice from today itself, so that writing in unruled sheets is nothing new to you. And a lot of you will ask me, sir, why in A4 sheets? Can I write it in a book? Yes, you can write it in a book. But the problem is, when you write in a book, limited number of pages are there in the book. Even if you have spiraled, limited number of pages are there. Problem is, what if you run out of the pages? Again, you'll have to either purchase one more book, or remove the spiral, add pages, and again, add the spiral like this. Rather than that, my suggestion, write it in A4 sheets. Second important point in this particular context is, each of the subject, it should be a different sheet. Please do not write all the points of different subjects, be it static portion or current affairs, in a single sheet. It's like you have prepared a bhel puri. Now you don't know what point is related to which subject. For example, Indian economy. The sheet should be different. And within that, there should be a sheet for banking, a sheet for GDP and inflation, sheet for international trade, one more sheet for agriculture, so that when the sheet fills up, you can add one more sheet for respective topic itself. And all these are very minute things. But before starting, please take care of these particular things, so that when you're making the notes, you're working smart rather than working only hard. And over a period of time, when you write these particular notes in A4 sheets, and now you can basically take, let's say, subject of or topic of agriculture, static information will be there in 2 or 3 sheets, and current affairs for, let's say, last 15 months will be there in another 4 to 5 sheets. So maximum, let's say 10 sheets. 10 sheets are for prelims, mains, static information, current affairs for this particular topic of agriculture. So I hope you understand, right? My suggestion is simple. Don't overcomplicate it. Keep it simple. Keep it simple in the sense, when you're working, work according to the requirement of UPSC and work smart. So second suggestion, according to the subject wise. Third, like I've mentioned already, please don't copy and paste the complete book. In that particular situation, is there any way to learn how to make notes? For your benefit, I'm conducting special classes starting tomorrow. That is 1st July 2026 at 5:30 p.m. 1st, 2nd and 3rd July. I'm taking 3 special classes free of cost on the Unacademy platform. And what I'll be doing in this particular special class is, I'll be taking certain articles from different newspapers. And I'll give you those articles, read those articles, let's say one after another. Take 2 minutes, 3 minutes to read article and try to find out which point is important, what is the important point you should extract from this article, and then let's have a discussion. I'll tell you what should be the exact point you should have taken, what is the way to write this particular point, how can you basically contract this particular point, or let's say one paragraph into one point, etc. So this will be on the Unacademy platform at 5:30 p.m. tomorrow, 1st July, day after tomorrow, as well as the day after, 1st, 2nd and 3rd. And this is the QR code for the first session. Scan and enroll, and let's see, and let's meet tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. Now, third very important point, like I said, you should be right. You should be able to write these particular points in short, and in that particular situation, to shorten, you can always use flow charts. You can use flow charts. You can use diagrams. You can use tables, etc. And this will basically help you reduce or shorten the kind of information you want to write in these particular pages or in the form of notes. Fourth important point, please do not write the notes in paragraphs. When you write the notes in paragraphs, a lot of time what happens is the notes will become too bulky. And when the notes become too bulky, for example, you have written paragraph after paragraph for a particular, let's say, chapter, and in that particular subject, the notes itself will run into 500, 600, 700 pages. Those are not going to help you in quick and easy revision. This is another suggestion. Please write in point format. Please write in point format. Right? And one more very important suggestion that I would give to you people when you start making notes is, a lot of times you will combine the information that is needed for prelims as well as mains examination when you're making notes. When you're writing itself, have a method to basically differentiate between what is required for prelims and what is required for mains. If you can write it in separate sheet, that is better, but writing in separate sheet, maintaining will be difficult. Can you use certain basic techniques? For example, let's say when you're writing, and I know a lot of you will be thinking, sir, how do I differentiate what is important for prelims, what is important for mains? One, if you're a beginner, immediately recognizing that will be difficult for you. But anyways, I'll give you one example. Let's say you're reading about a scheme. You're reading about a scheme in the newspaper. When the points about the basics of the schemes are provided, basics in the sense, what kind of beneficiaries are covered under the scheme? Which is the nodal authority implementing the scheme? How much funds have been allocated during the course of implementation? Right? And what is the objective that the government is trying to achieve? Example. Right? So these are the important basic provisions of the scheme. These are more relevant for prelims examination. Whereas in the same article, let's say there is also information provided regarding evaluation of the scheme. Evaluation. That is, this particular scheme has uplifted so many people out of poverty. It has contributed to financial inclusion. It has contributed to women empowerment. So many people have got loans, etc., etc., etc. These kind of points are more relevant for mains examination. Again, I'm saying immediately you may not understand what is relevant for prelims and mains. Over a period of time, when you start reading, when you start learning more and more, you will be able to decipher and basically understand this point is relevant for prelims and this is for mains and this is for both prelims and mains. My suggestion, can you use, let's say, two different color pens, maybe blue and black, blue and red? And if it is too difficult to keep on changing the pens, which I understand most of you will simply say, sir, it means I need to carry two different color pens. No worries. When you're making notes with the same pen, on the margin, can you simply use certain symbol to basically identify, okay, this particular part of the page I don't have to read because this is for prelim, this is for mains. Let's say, for example, I've written the evaluation part of the scheme, and basically beside the word evaluation, I've put a hashtag. I'll put a star symbol like this. Right? One or the other, whatever technique you want to use, that is entirely left to you. But my suggestion is, when you make notes, ensure that you're working smart right now so that you don't have to read completely all the information and then realize, array, this part is not relevant for prelims. And if this keeps on happening over a period of time, you may not realize it today, but if it keeps on happening over a period of time, unnecessarily you might end up spending lot of time reading what is relevant for mains when you are preparing for prelims examination. So use these kind of techniques to ensure you are not going to waste time. Done? Right? And whenever you make notes, try to make notes of those particular points which are generally hard for you to remember. If there is, for example, GDP, in the notes that you make on GDP, I'm pretty sure once you learn the concept of GDP, nobody will forget it. That is, the expansion of GDP is gross domestic product. Nobody will forget it that this is published by MOSPI. Again, as a beginner, you may find it difficult now, but once you study GDP, you will never forget these, right? Let's say important but very easily recollectible pointers. So you don't have to write these kind of points. Try to write the important other points which easily, right, you will forget over a period of time. That is my suggestion. And next important point, do not write all the data that you come across in the book as well as newspaper. Of course, yes, some data is relevant, some data is important. But does it mean you will have to write all the data that you come across, let's say in the newspaper? Now, somebody will ask me, sir, what kind of data I should be able to remember? Or what is relevant, what is not relevant? How do I understand? One rule is that any data that is published on month to month basis, on quarterly basis, is generally not relevant. UPSC doesn't ask it. For example, on quarterly basis, what is the GDP data is published? Is UPSC going to ask you a question targeting one quarter of a particular year and asking you a question on that? It is very, very unlikely. I'm using the term unlikely. You can never trust UPSC, but in that particular case, how many data sets can you remember? That's also, right, one question that you need to ask yourself. Right? Let's say unemployment data is published on monthly basis. Inflation data is published on monthly basis. The forex reserve number is published on monthly basis. So these kind of high frequency indicators you don't have to write down. In fact, you don't have to even go through these particular articles. And like I said, if you're a beginner, initially it will be very difficult for you to understand all of it. You require some hand holding. You require certain assistance for some days. And that's the reason I'm conducting the special classes. Those interested, enroll. It's free of cost. Let's understand, right, how do you derive this information from the articles. Done? So these are certain very important points or the advices, like I say, I want to give to you people, especially those who are the beginners who are starting, right, their journey for UPSC examination. I know the journey is going to be cumbersome. This particular process of preparing for UPSC is a long-term process. Treat it in the same way. Do not expect the results of what you're doing today to be arrived tomorrow itself. Please focus on the long term, not just the short term. So these are some of the things I wanted to discuss with you people regarding the art of making notes. Right? So if you have liked the discussion, do not forget to hit the like button. If you're yet to join the Unacademy IAS YouTube channel, you can join right now. That's it from my side. Take care. All the best to all of you. Have a great day.